Hi, Gerhardt here, once again looking at the tyranny and the delusions of the social justice movement. So in the aftermath of this COVID hysteria, at least for those who still aren't suffering from this hysteria, consider that the cost of this has vastly outweighed the proposed benefits. COVID is not an equal opportunist. It is not. And we knew this very early on. The risk distribution is obvious. The elderly, people with serious underlying health conditions, and yet everybody was required to lock down. And no, COVID doesn't believe in equity, neither do I. This was nonsense. We could have easily sheltered the sick and the vulnerable in place while the rest of us lived our lives, earning money, caring for our families, and sending children off to school. And elderly sent back into elder care facilities. This was negligent homicide, right? The Cuomo, the governor of New York, sent COVID-infected elderly patients into nursing homes and killed thousands. I wrote early on in Facebook that you could take these infected elderly patients, put them up in a very nice hotel, provide them room service, and kept them safe and had their medical care if they needed back to the hospitals. These were patients, outpatients, but instead sent to elder care facility to kill a lot of very vulnerable elderly people. Absolutely awful. And you couldn't comfort a dying parent, but the medical community gave license to BLM and Antifa rioters to burn down entire city blocks. And this is a fact. You can ask Mr. Google. You might have to do some digging because the algorithms there are likely suppressing it. Yes, there were thousands of doctors saying racism is a medical health emergency. So everybody else locked down, except Gavin Newsom. Well, he goes off to a nice fancy French restaurant, or Nancy Pelosi getting her hair cut, or Barack Obama having a lavish birthday party. No, these people don't need to lock down, but your kids, they can't go to school, you can't go to work. If you own a store, no, it's shut down, but Walmart, oh, it remained open. Absolute nonsense. And, you know, these lockdowns, this is leftist totalitarianism. This is authoritarianism of the worst sort. And, you know, following, you know, the United States, Canada, same thing. It was absolutely terrible. Businesses were closed. Children kept from school. It is indefensible. You could go to Walmart, but not a small locally owned store. Sweden never closed its schools down and kept entirely open. Florida lifted its restrictions very early, following the data, right? They followed the science, and their fatality rate compares very favorable to these lockdown Nazi states. And the Florida has an overrepresented representation of elderly. It did very well. They followed the science. And their economies, Sweden, Florida, and other states that did not adopt this ridiculous lockdown mandate, they did much better off. In the lockdowns, what did it give you? Missed vital medical appointments, surgeries, treatments, increased suicides, spousal abuse, a dramatic plummeting of school achievement. And yes, this recession, as Biden kept flooding the market, when people should have been going back to work, Biden and his government are paying people to stay at home, living on the taxpayer dime. This was not science. This was leftist ideologues forcing their totalitarian vision on you. And climate hysteria, mark my words, this is the next frontier, their next excuse for usurping absolute control, telling you how to live your lives. I hope you will check out my book, Deconstructing Social Justice. It's available on Amazon. You can now get it on Audibles. It's not important because I wrote it. I wrote it because the issues could not be more important. I thank you so much for your time and attention. Bye-bye.